This is my first time logging in since the Odyssey launch, and all my key bindings were gone, so I had to just do a quick and dirty key binding to basically wrap up some things in Elite because I don't think I'll be playing it much for a while now. Now, hopefully, this changes, but today I kind of just want to talk about the problems with Elite and the Odyssey launch and what's going on. Now, I'm a little bit more of a variety gamer, like so. Elite's not the only game I play, and I don't play it like every day all year. Like, I'll come back to it 3 or 4 times a year probably, and I have, I think, around 1,200 hours into Elite currently. I have quite a few engineered ships, I got a fleet carrier, and all that stuff. The only thing I really haven't done that I kind of wanted to do was I haven't got my rank up with the Empire to be able to buy the best ship, and I'm mostly the way there, and that's what I was working on before Odyssey came out. But anyway, uh, I feel like the problems with Elite Dangerous extend in the Odyssey launch, was just kind of the last straw that broke the camel's back. I feel like there's been several issues for years in Elite, and this just kind of finally pushed it over the line because it was so blatant in players' faces. And I feel like there's a major disconnect between the developers and what the players want. Like, for instance, when I first, like, I had kind of started getting back into playing Elite Dangerous quite a bit. Like, I was probably, I don't know, I was really gunning for it this time. And that's when they kind of announced the content drought in order to wait for the release of what eventually came out to be Odyssey. This is before we knew anything about it. And now, Elite was my main space game because, like, where I have had some fun in No Man's Sky in the past, that flight model just really killed it for me. I just don't enjoy, like, it's a space game that I do everything I can to fly my spaceship the least amount as possible, right? So, like, where there are some fun things, I never completed the story, I never finished the game. I would go in there if my friends were playing and have fun for a little bit, stuff like that. And then Star Citizen, for the longest time, I was getting very poor FPS out of my previous computer. And then when I got a computer that could run it on the free fly days, I was still. It just felt like the flight model just wasn't satisfying. It felt more like. Uh, it felt closer to No Man's Sky than Elite Dangerous, which just didn't do it for me. I don't. They've changed that recently, and I'm not 100% sure when that changed. But anyway, Elite Dangerous was the space game for me just because of that flight model. And I mean, like, even coming in for a landing with your ship, it was skillful if you weren't using the auto dock, and it was fun. It was fun to control your ship in for landing, like even laser mining, even like the most mundane, boring things that would normally be boring in most games was interesting and fun because it has such a great flight mechanic. But anyway, back to like when they announced that, like, I was kind of hoping it wasn't Space Legs. I was hoping that they would just use this opportunity to really flesh out a lot more of the space sims, like multi-crew, playing with friends, stuff like that, so I could enjoy it. And fixing grinds, fixing engineers, doing a bunch of stuff like that. Maybe adding some new cool ships, some more SRVs, just cool. I was hoping it would be content like that, but I figured it'd be Space Legs since that seemed like what most of the community wanted. And then when they announced that it was Space Legs, I was a little bit disappointed. But I thought, hey, you know what? If they do Space Legs right, they could really improve like the space, like flying spaceships on the part of the game, and add a lot to it, while giving what the majority of the community clamored for. And I was like, you know what? This might not be a bad thing. Like, I'm not much of an explorer, just because it's just not like sightseeing in a video game. Just really isn't what I enjoy doing. But I was like, hey, if they add something for exploring, like, this is kind of after their first thing where they showed the little tool that you were using. I was like, hey, if you're gathering material and doing science stuff, and maybe you link that to synthesizing ammo or something where I felt like I was working towards a goal, I could probably enjoy I probably would enjoy exploring quite a bit more. Like I'd be working towards a goal, and could be seeing cool sights. I could be jumping around the place. It could be a lot of fun. Well, anyway, and I was like, huh. The other things, like if they add ship interiors, like another thing that they could do is they could really improve multi-crew and playing with friends. Like they could add stuff where you could disable other people's ships and then EVA over there, or maybe they sell a new vehicle that you could fly over there, like small, and board somebody else's ship. And I was like, wow, that really could add a lot of content, and you could steal that ship and maybe scrap it for engineering materials. Maybe make the engineering material grind not as bad. Like if you were able to capture a federal corvette, like maybe that paid off a huge amount of engineering materials. That would be awesome. And I was also looking at the scavenging. I was like, what is this gameplay loop? Are you going to pull up in signal sources and you grab your 3 to 5 canisters that you pick up normally, and then you could like go over to like the crashed spaceship, like EVA, or like the little space vehicle I was talking about earlier. Go over there, and then there was like a little gameplay loop where you're cutting off stuff and you were getting more engineering materials. So I was like, wow, they could really do a lot with these systems, and it could really add a ton to the game. Like this could be fantastic. Now, putting all those expectations on FDev really wasn't fair to them, so I tried to pull it back a little bit. I was like, hey, if they just add some new ships and they fix the material grind, whatever else they add in, like that's all I really want from Odyssey is new ships and fixing the material grind. I'd be happy with Odyssey if they just did that. And then like you get the news that, hey, they cut ship interiors. I was like, that's rough. Like that could have been really cool. But, they could still fix the material grind. They could add some new cool ships. And that would I still think that would make Odyssey worth it to me. But then you get to when it came out in alpha, and I was playing pretty religiously in alpha. Like you can see, I had $45 million worth of bounties I didn't even turn in. That was just from my final session, I think the day before Odyssey came out. And so I was like, okay, well, they haven't, like, it looks like just a massive grind to upgrade your suit. And I was like, wow, that sucks. I really don't want to go through another massive grind upgrade. And then I realized they haven't shown me anything where I would like to get out of my ship. Like, why would I care about grinding this up? There's nothing to do out of my ship that I feel like I would want to do in this game. So then I started to get really worried about like, hey, what content are they adding? And like, I think they had already said no new SRVs. Now I'm not a big SRV driver, so I didn't really care about that, even though it's pretty ridiculous we only have one SRV. Like all of Horizons, like why didn't you add any more SRVs? Like it was all about driving around planets on SRVs. Like there could have been a bunch of cool stuff with that. And then they announced that there's not going to be any new ships with Odyssey, and I was like, really? Wow. I don't know. And it was at that point I was like, I don't know if I'll buy Odyssey. Seems like they're not doing anything. And then the guy came out. I like watched their live stream. Like this is just a branch of the main trunk. And I was like, okay, well maybe there's a lot of cool content that they're withholding back, and this is just kind of how they wanted to test Odyssey. Like I don't know. But then it gets to launch day and it's just the alpha. And like I said at the beginning of the video, like I haven't logged into Elite since the day Odyssey launched. Never bought it, and I was just like, I don't know, my motivation to play the game was just killed at that point. So, anyway, it seems like FDev just has a problem with adding content that would improve their base core game. Like there's been so many features that have just been dead on arrival in Odyssey. Like you look at multi-crew, dead on arrival. Like it's a joke. Like when is there a situation that multi-crew is useful? Like if you want to show somebody a site, but that's about it. And half the time it doesn't even work. You look at like, why would I want to fly my buddy's fighter when I could just bring another ship that's going to be 10 times better than that fighter? Like it's fun to do maybe once. But like, come on, like just have an NPC pilot fly the fighter and I'll bring my own ship. So let me get in a turret which is less effective than a gimbaled or fixed weapon on your ship, and then me using the turret makes it less effective than just having the turret auto fire. Like, come on. Like, multi-crew's a joke. And you look at squadrons, now I know squadrons are used, but there's no reason to be in a big squadron. Like, I just made my own meme squadron. It's called Top 1% of all squadrons, and I feel no need to join any other squadron because it doesn't bar me from any content. The only point of squadrons is they have a ranking to see, like, Xeno, trade, exploration, combat, and all this stuff to see how high your squadron can get. And honestly, I find it more fun to just see how far my meme squadron can get on the leaderboard, even though, because I don't really care about being the top person on there. So squadrons just feel dead on arrival, and without like discords being made around squadrons, like, they're pretty useless. You look at CQC, which is a lot of fun, but it's dead on arrival because it wasn't added into the main game. Like, you could have tied that to squadrons and been having squadron wars and like stuff like that, and it would have been fantastic. Like, I can't tell you how, like, I would probably switch to only playing PvP if I could fight for my squadron. I would have joined a big squadron. I've gotten way more involved in the community than I have been. And I would have fought, like, if I've had a squadron that fought a lot of wars, I would have just been PvPing all the time. I would have been trying to get better at flying with flight assist off. I would have done so much more in the game, and I would have gotten probably double the amount of time I have in the game currently. Just from that one feature, if it was added into the game and not a separate thing. And then you look at Odyssey, and they've also added it as like a slapped-on first-person shooter on the side. Like, why isn't there ship interiors, and why isn't the FPS, main part of the FPS, fighting in ship interiors to pirate other people's ships or defend your ship from pirates, or like potentially tie it into squadrons where it's like, hey, like, we're going to go take out the settlement as a squadron, and we got our new SRV tanks or whatever that some people are going to operate. We got our foot soldiers, and we got our ship cover. Like, why isn't there stuff like that? Like, but no, it's just this completely separate game that, I don't know, it might have brought a few new people in that are into FPS shooters, but none of my friends that are in FPS, like, it didn't interest any of them. And I'm not particularly interested in FPS, and it didn't do anything for me because, like, it doesn't add anything to the actual space combat. So it just seems like FDev's afraid to add anything to the game that's going to enhance, like, the core gameplay of their game, the flying spaceships. And this is frustrating because, like, their spaceship gameplay is already awesome. If they would just add some things, it could be even more awesome. If they could make some things more accessible, it'd be awesome. Like, the grind's too much. Like, all my real life friends, even the guy that got me into the game, has quit playing and doesn't ever play because the grind to engineer ships too much. And he's tried it several times, and he gets burnt out before he even gets one ship engineered. And I agree with him. It's ridiculous how the engineering is. I have a hard time recommending this game to anybody because I'm like thinking about, like, oh yeah, well, before you can really start playing the game, you gotta grind up some credits so you can buy stuff, and then you gotta grind for hours upon hours before you can actually start playing the game because your ship's gonna be engineered. And it's basically, if you try to do Xeno combat, which is it's odd. Like, I love Xeno combat. It's a ton of fun. Like, you can't, like, you'd have to be an extremely good pilot to even attempt that unengineered. So it's just like, that needs to be fixed. It hasn't. All my friends have quit playing because of the grind, and it's just frustrating when they have such good core gameplay and so many core gameplay loops and so many ways that they can improve it, make it more accessible, make PvP more accessible, make that more fun, make playing with your buddies more fun, make squadrons better, make multi-crew better. Like, they could have done all this stuff, yet they refuse to add anything to this game that adjusts the core gameplay loop and just wants to glue stuff on the side that's like, yeah, you can now go down to a settlement and shoot NPCs. It's like, come on, that's not what anybody wants to do. And I believe FDev can still make this game great. But the problem is, right now, it feels like FDev does not want to put in the work or effort. And to fix Odyssey, it would really take a lot of effort on their part. And right now, they won't commit to any features, and it really feels like, it really feels like that it's the future of Odyssey's up in the air because they won't commit. And I think that's why you get all these videos of people talking about, is Odyssey dead? I feel like the player base is still there to support the gameplay, but it seems like FDev's not there. And that's really a frustrating thing to see a game I've loved